Welcome to the Wife Stories YouTube channel. New video every day, and don't forget to subscribe. Here we go. Why is it difficult for people to admit that they want to get divorced? Why do they start lying and hiding their extramarital affairs instead? These questions have been bothering me for a long time because I couldn't figure out how my wife decided to play this game. But if she decided to take such a step, then let her face terrible consequences. It was Friday evening at the Alhambra Lounge, bustling with a lively crowd enjoying themselves. The atmosphere was electric, with the place alive and buzzing. Despite sitting at the bar with a vodka tonic in hand, my presence wasn't for the typical reasons of drinking and dancing. Instead, I was there with a purpose that I knew was risky, bracing myself for potential trouble that could land me behind bars. While I casually sipped my drink, my attention was fixed on a couple seated across the room. They had been on my radar for nearly an hour, particularly him. He was the target of my mission, a regular attendee every Friday night, likely to support his wife's brother, whose band performed at the Alhambra weekly. Finally, my patience paid off as the moment I anticipated arrived. The music slowed to a waltz, and the couple gracefully rose from their seats to take to the dance floor, giving them a brief moment to find their rhythm. I then rose from my seat and joined them on the floor. Approaching him from behind, I tapped him on the shoulder and asked, "May I cut in?" He turned to confront the man who was trying to invade him and his wife. As soon as he turned to face me, I quickly struck. Admittedly, it was a surprise attack, but it was caused by my pent-up anger and frustration combined with the strength of my 200 pounds. The impact sent him tumbling to the ground, where he lay vulnerable. Taking advantage of the opportunity, I struck right at his dignity. His wife stood nearby, shocked and horrified by the scene. However, her instinctive reaction made her accept what I took out of my pocket and offered her. After seeing the compromising photo of her husband with my wife, her initial shock turned into rage. She stabbed her husband several times with the pointed toe of her 4-inch sea moss heels, while I returned to my seat at the bar, waiting for law enforcement officers to arrive for a potential conversation. It seems no one contacted the police, but I did have someone approach me for a conversation. Actually, a couple of people did. First, it was the brother. The band took a break right after they finished the song his sister and brother-in-law were dancing to. He approached me, and it was evident he wasn't going to be hostile, so I stayed put, sipped my drink, and waited. When he reached me, he asked, "Why did you hit Jim?" I pulled a photo from my pocket and handed it to him. "The woman in the picture is my wife," I replied. He glanced at the photo and returned it to me. "I've always told Norma that he was a jerk. Maybe now she'll believe me." I suppose I was mistaken. "About what?" "I assumed he came here every Friday to support your band, but it seems your relationship isn't like that." "You've hit the nail on the head. I can't stand him, and he knows it. He only shows up on Fridays because my deal with management includes free drinks for all my relatives." "So, why are you still here? I figured you'd want to leave after hitting him." "I anticipated that the police might be called, and I prefer they confront me here rather than at home. It's unlikely anyone called them. He's not particularly well liked, and many of the people here tonight probably enjoyed the spectacle. I should go join the others." "Don't be a stranger," he said, heading off to find the rest of the band. As a couple of guys helped to dick shit off the floor and guided him to his booth, his wife approached me. "Do you have any more of these?" she asked, holding up the photo I had given her. "I have a couple of dozen," I replied, "and 2 hours of video." "Can I have copies?" "Of course. You realize you've created a problem for me tonight, right?" "I would think informing you would solve a problem for you." "Not that. He can't drive me home in his current condition, and even if he could, I wouldn't let him in the house." "No problem. I'll drive you home. I'm ready to leave now." While in my car, I mentioned, "Your brother informed me that your name is Norma, so now that I know yours, I suppose it's fair for you to know mine. I'm Bob Lloyd." Given the situation, I can't exactly say I'm thrilled to meet you, but in a way, I guess I'm somewhat pleased to make your acquaintance. "Oh, that sounds a bit unusual." "I'm pleased because you've given me a gift tonight." "A gift?" I'm confused. "You've granted me my freedom, I've suspected Jim of cheating on me for a couple of years now, but I lack the means to hire a private investigator to gather evidence. What you've provided me tonight is exactly what I need to end things with him. That sounds like my situation. I've had suspicions that Vicky has been unfaithful for a while, but I only recently had the funds to hire someone. My grandfather passed away and left me some money. I never disclosed the amount to Vicky, so I used a portion of it to uncover the truth about her. When we arrived at her house, she said, "I'd like to invite you in, but I'm concerned you might interpret it the wrong way." How so? You might think I wanted to seek revenge on Jim by being with another man and chose you for that purpose, but that's not why I want to invite you in. I want to pick your brain for any information you have about Jim and his actions. You can trust me. If I were to join you in bed, I'd be no better than Vicky, and I won't stoop to that level. I followed her into her house and into the living room. She gestured towards the couch and asked if I wanted a drink or if she should prepare some coffee. Coffee would be great for me. I don't plan on staying too long. If I'm still here when your husband returns, I might just leave before things escalate again. He won't be coming back. Before I left him, I made it clear he shouldn't return. I warned him that if he did, I wouldn't hesitate to use my gun. Would you really go that far? Probably not, but he's aware I'm angry. He knows how I react when I'm angry, and he's aware I have a handgun. You own a gun? You seem surprised. It's just that besides law enforcement, I've never known a woman who owns a firearm. I purchased it for protection when depositing the day's earnings at the bank's night deposit. It's a Llama 380. It resembles a compact .45, and Jim is aware that I'm proficient in its use. As she made her way to the kitchen to prepare coffee, I couldn't help but wonder why her husband was involved with my wife, especially when he had someone like Norma waiting at home. Norma was an attractive woman, and if I weren't still committed to Vicky, I might have considered pursuing her myself. But, well, my ties to Vicky wouldn't last much longer, and who knows what could happen then. Norma returned and sat beside me on the couch. Coffee will be ready in about 5 minutes, so how long has Jim been involved with your wife? At least a month that I know of. That's when I hired a private investigator to look into it, though it could have been going on longer. Looking back, our marriage started to change about 2 years ago, but I've been suspicious of Vicky for over a year now. I believe she's been cheating on me since our relationship shifted. Jim might be the only one, or he could be one of many. He just happened to be the one I caught her with. What did she say when you confronted her? I haven't confronted her yet. I suspect she'll find out I know when your husband calls her tomorrow. I'm curious to see how she'll handle it. You've known for a month and you've let her continue? When I confirmed it, I consulted a lawyer about getting a divorce. Turns out we live in a state with no-fault divorce laws. It doesn't matter who's at fault. The divorce is straightforward, splitting everything 50-50. I don't care about the laws. I'm not going to let Vicky benefit from betraying me. Once I understood the divorce process, I started rearranging and hiding assets. Vicky might get half, but it'll be half of a lot less than what was there a month ago. So what can you tell me about Jim and your wife? They convene each Monday and Thursday. On those evenings, Vicky purportedly engages in card games with her sorority sisters from college and participates in a book club meeting at the library. Those are the designated nights for Jim's bowling and lodge gatherings. He stayed at my place for 3 nights when I was away on a business trip. That's where the videos I possess originated from. I can't confirm if it was a one-time occurrence, but considering I travel for business approximately once a month, it could have been a regular arrangement for them. I suppose that clarifies Jim's sudden business trips. They always appeared sudden, but it never crossed my mind they might be fabricated. What's your plan? I'm going to end things with him, and quickly, before he has a chance to conceal assets. First thing Monday morning, I'll consult a lawyer. It's unfortunate they don't work on Saturdays, or else I'd see one tomorrow. Actually, I know a lawyer who works on Saturdays. If you're serious, I can connect you with him. I'm dead serious. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number from my speed dial. Once the call connected, I switched to speaker mode and announced, "You can relax. I won't require your assistance to get out of trouble." How did you manage that? I suppose he wasn't particularly popular, and no one bothered to involve the police. You must be one of the luckiest guys I know. I'll take any luck I can get, buddy. By the way, I'm on speaker and I'm currently with the wife of the jerk. She mentioned she'd be waiting at the door of any attorneys working tomorrow morning. I know you don't usually handle these types of cases, but would you consider taking hers? Are you serious? With all the evidence you have against her husband, it seems like an easy win. Great, then it's settled. Norma, meet my fraternity brother Sam. Sam, meet Norma. I passed her the phone, then inquired about the location of the bathroom before excusing myself to use it, allowing her some privacy. Upon returning, I noticed the phone was still on speaker, so I announced my presence. I'm back. We've got everything sorted. Take care. I'm heading to bed. Catch you later, he said, ending the call abruptly. I tucked my phone back into my pocket as Norma began to speak. Sam mentioned he'd file on Monday morning and have Jim serve at his workplace that afternoon. He claimed it could be done swiftly by duplicating your paperwork with my details replacing yours. Will your wife be served on Monday too? That's the plan. And then the real struggle begins. The struggle. Vicky won't surrender easily. She'll hire a lawyer and contest the divorce. She'll throw up every obstacle she can, and I'll do my utmost to navigate around them. Sam predicts she might push for court-ordered counseling to delay proceedings. Would you reconsider? Not a chance. I might have been able to overlook a one-time mistake, but a prolonged affair, that's out of the question. Plus, there are the disparaging remarks she made about me during their intimate conversations, since I'll be sharing all the evidence with you. It makes me wonder why they even stayed with two apparent losers like us. I understand all too well why Jim remains with me. I am the financial backbone of this family, and the satisfying part, at least for me, is that I won't have to endure any of the nonsense without fault. I have a solid prenuptial agreement in place. If you're the one with the money, why didn't you consider hiring a private investigator? The money is tied up in a trust fund that I can't access until I turn 30, and I still have 16 months to go. I can use it for medical and educational expenses. But that's it until I'm 30. Moreover, I earn a third more than Jim does in my job, and it's my income that supports our current lifestyle. However, even with that, there's no extra cash I could spare to hire an investigator. I probably share some blame for Jim getting involved with your wife. How so? If I had expressed my suspicions when I first suspected him of cheating, he might have stopped. The prenup was clear about consequences for adultery. He knew exactly what he stood to lose if I caught him. But I suppose that speaks volumes about what he thinks of me, that he believes I'm too oblivious to ever catch on to his actions. When can I obtain copies of your findings? Sam has all the information. When you go to sign the paperwork, tell him I instructed him to provide you with copies. I glanced at my watch and remarked, I need to leave soon. Can I check in with you occasionally to see how things are going? Absolutely. I hope you do. Once again, thank you for the gift you've given me. Perhaps I can treat you to dinner one evening as a token of my appreciation. That sounds lovely. I'll reach out to you once things settle down at my place. I'm not sure what awaits me there. Your husband might be well enough to contact Vicky. I hadn't planned on confronting her until she received the divorce papers on Monday. I suppose I should have considered that before pursuing your husband. Oh well, it's too late to dwell on that now. When I arrived home, Vicky appeared to be her usual self, so I assumed she hadn't received a call from her lover. She greeted me with a kiss and inquired about my lateness. I explained that Al, my boss, wanted to celebrate signing the Johnson contract, so we stopped for a few drinks. I tried calling to inform you, but you didn't answer your cell or the home phone. I left my cell on my desk at work. I didn't even hear the home phone ring. Have you eaten? I had some ground round with the drinks, so I'm fine. Dessert? No, thanks. Are you sure? What do we have? Come to the bedroom and I'll show you. I glanced at her, and since I didn't respond, she must have thought I was a bit slow, so she added, It's been almost a week since we made love, and I'm feeling a bit needy. I understood her intention, yet my pause stemmed from deliberation on whether I desired to proceed. At that moment, Vicky wasn't high on my list of preferred individuals. However, I ultimately concluded that I should seize any opportunity available. Who knew how long it would be until I found another chance for intimacy after Vicky was out of the picture? With a smile, I responded, "I'll accept your challenge." While we were doing this in bed, I couldn't get rid of the memory of my wife's words to her lover. She noticed that I had a modest tool that could not provide her with complete satisfaction. Then, for the first time in the history of our marriage, I did what Vicky had mentioned to her lover and what I had always done. I turned away and fell asleep. I was wondering how Vicky felt about it. This was the first time I hadn't snuggled up to her after making love and dozed off with her in my arms. I hoped she was lying awake thinking about it, perhaps wondering or maybe worried about the changes. Our Saturday routine usually included waking up, taking a shower, and going out for breakfast. However, on that particular Saturday, Vicky changed the plan. She was obviously worried and decided to show her love for me, and we repeated the night's actions. After that, we took a shower and ate. I spent the remainder of the day attending to typical weekend tasks, such as mowing the lawn, removing weeds from the flower beds, and washing the cars. It was fortunate that I had decided to make the most of the opportunities as they arose. During dinner, Vicky informed me that our leisure time would be put on hold for a while, as Aunt Flo had arrived a day earlier than expected. Sunday passed uneventfully, with me busying myself with household chores. Around noon, Vicky's mother arrived to take her shopping. With them gone, I decided to check in with Norma to see how she was faring. She explained that she had visited Sam's office and completed the necessary paperwork to initiate the divorce proceedings. After retrieving copies of the incriminating pictures and videos, she had reviewed them at home. I was feeling rather resolute when Jim returned home. He entered as if nothing had occurred, and I promptly demanded that he leave. Asserting that the house was as much his mine, he refused to budge. Leaving briefly, I returned with my pistol and instructed him to vacate within the count of 10. I made it clear that if he remained beyond that, consequences would ensue. He could discern from my demeanor that I meant business, prompting him to swiftly depart. "Would you truly have taken that action?" I asked Norma during our phone call. After hearing the derogatory remarks he made about me in those videos, you bet would have. How are things going on your end? Quiet. Seems like Vicky hasn't heard anything from your husband. Either that or she's an incredible actress, but come to think of it, she probably is. She's had me fooled for years into believing she was a faithful and loving wife. Well, you live and you learn. Did Sam mention when he'd have your paperwork ready? He mentioned he'd submit them to the court first thing in the morning and could have Jim served whenever I wanted. I'm not sure about your plans, but I asked him to serve Jim at his workplace in the afternoon. I had the same plan. Naturally, I had hoped it would come as a big surprise to her, but it seems unlikely now. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spoil it for you. You didn't. I ruined it myself by confronting your husband on Friday night. Even if he doesn't tell her, he'll make it clear that I'm on to her when they talk at work on Monday. The important thing is it'll soon be over, except for the legal stuff, and I can start moving on with my life. Can we meet up on Monday evening? I'll treat you to that dinner I promised, and we can have a couple of drinks to celebrate. I won't know until late tomorrow if I can make it. I'll be busy moving out of the house as soon as Vicky leaves for work. The house belongs to her. Her parents gave it to her when they retired and moved to Arizona. I'll keep the plans open. Give me a call if you're unable to make it. Although the house was titled under Vicky's name, it was still subject to contention in the divorce proceedings. Despite her parents gifting her the house, it was still burdened with a mortgage that Vicky took on. Although the title was in her name, it was my earnings that contributed to half of the mortgage payments. I aimed to reclaim some of that investment, with Sam assuring me of a better-than-average chance of success. Upon Vicky's return from shopping, she prepared dinner, and afterward, we relaxed on the couch watching TV until bedtime. As we lay in bed, Vicky nestled close to me, knowing it would be the final time. In the morning, I bid Vicky farewell with a kiss, and she assumed she'd see me after work, expecting it would remain there until I found a new place to live. Tom and his wife Pat graciously offered me a spare bedroom until I found permanent accommodation. I called Sam, who confirmed the plan to confront Vicky and Norma's husband at 2:30. On a whim, I phoned Norma and asked if she'd like some company while waiting for the anticipated phone calls after our spouses were served. She welcomed me over. I arrived at her place a little past 2, and as we sat at our kitchen table sipping iced tea, we discussed our expectations regarding the outcome of serving the two cheaters. I speculated that Vicky would call, denying any wrongdoing and suggesting we talk it out. "Are you going to?" Norma inquired. "No," I replied. "All Vicky will do is lie and spout the usual excuses cheaters make when caught. It's not what I think. She loves only me. We can overcome it. All that rubbish from the cheater's playbook. She's been deceiving me ever since she got involved with your husband, maybe even before him. I won't believe a word she says, so why waste my time talking to her?" That pretty much echoes what I anticipate from Jim. Can we discuss something other than those two jerks? Of course. How about those Broncos? I casually mentioned it as a joke, but she surprised me by responding seriously. It all depends on Manning's performance. He's been inconsistent in the past 2 seasons, and this year he seems prone to interceptions. If he can improve, the Broncos might have a shot at winning it all. I was impressed she articulated exactly what I was thinking. Author's note: at the time of this writing, the Broncos were 6-0. We delved into football discussions, particularly about Denver's defense, when my phone rang. Glancing at the caller ID, I saw it was Vicky, and checking the time, it was 2:35. "Time to face the music," I said, switching my phone to speaker mode as I answered. "Good afternoon, this is Bob. What the hell is going on with this divorce nonsense?" Vicky's tone was sharp. It's typically what happens when someone discovers their supposedly faithful wife is cheating. "How dare you call me a cheating wife? Isn't that what you were doing with Jim? And by the way, his wife feels the same, just letting you know in case you missed the memo when he was served. Sleeping with Jim? Where did you even get that twisted idea?" "From the photos and videos my private investigator gathered for me." "Photos? Videos? I sincerely hope you're not going to attempt to convince me that it's all a misunderstanding, that those individuals in the pictures and video aren't you. I might entertain the idea that you have a doppelganger or something of the sort, but I won't believe for a second that Jim also has a double and that your doppelganger and his happen to coincide, which is who my private investigator caught. Admit it, Vicky, you've been caught. We'll discuss this when we're home tonight." "No, we won't. By the time you get home, you'll find that I've left. Any further communication between us will have to go through my attorney. Goodbye, Vicky." Just as I ended the call, Norma's phone began to ring and she glanced at the screen. "It's Jim. He never calls me during the day," she chuckled, adding, "I wonder what urgent matter has come up." Answering the call, she activated the speakerphone. "Hello. It's me. What's all this talk about divorce?" Norma remarked to me, "They seem to be following the same script." "What?" her husband queried. "I was just telling Bob that it sounds like you and your mistress are following the same script. Your words when I picked up the phone are nearly identical to what she said when she called him." "Who's Bob?" "I'm your soon-to-be ex-husband's new partner," I replied. "Why are you with my wife?" "We watched the video obtained by his private investigator, watched your interaction with his wife, and frankly, we came to the conclusion that neither of you would star in adult films." "Really? She satisfies me much better than you've ever satisfied me." "You're delusional," I retorted. "Norma is far superior to the woman I was married to." "And he's far superior to you even at your best," Norma added, exchanging a smile and a high five with me. Then she continued, just like he told his cheating wife a few minutes ago, "From now on, all communication will go through my lawyer. You should find his card and the legal documents that were handed to you. You can come at 6 in the evening to pick up your things, but keep in mind that all the time you are here, I will keep my pistol ready with a cartridge in the chamber." "And cocked," she added for emphasis. He paused for a moment before addressing me. "You caught me off guard, you jerk, and I'll be seeking revenge. You won't have to search. I'll be waiting on the front porch when you come to collect your things tonight. Bring your A-game. I've got a lot of pent-up anger, and beating you up will help release some of it." He stayed silent, and after about 30 seconds, Norma assumed he had hung up, so she closed her phone. Are you really going to wait for him on the steps? I said I would, and I don't want him to think I'm a liar or scared of him. I'll have dinner ready just in case you're hungry after. I have a couple of apartments to check out this afternoon, but I'll be back by 5 in case he shows up early. I have plenty of space here. You can move in with me. I appreciate it, but it wouldn't look right. I'm only offering you a place to stay, not any special treatment. Even so, it wouldn't look right, and I won't give her anything she can use against me. I've got her trapped, and I don't want to give her any leeway. The offer stands if you change your mind. I didn't find the apartments particularly appealing during my search, so at 10 to 5 I returned to Norma's place. We settled on the front porch swing where Norma served iced tea and cookies. As we conversed, the topic turned to my pending divorce. What's your plan regarding your soon-to-be ex? Norma inquired. I've already taken action. Moving out and initiating the divorce proceedings, I replied. No desire for revenge. None at all. It seems futile. Any retaliation would only lead to escalation, and frankly, I don't have enough regard for Vicky to invest any effort into it. At 20 to 6, a car pulled into the driveway. Norma's husband emerged, observing us on the swing before fetching a baseball bat from the trunk. With a grin, he approached, jokingly remarking, I followed your advice, brought my A-game, gesturing the bat towards me. While I was searching the area for something that could be used as a makeshift weapon, a loud bang pierced the air and I witnessed her husband collapse. My gaze shifted to Norma, who was brandishing what looked like a scaled-down Colt .45 aimed at her fallen spouse. Oh shit, he howled. You shot me. Damn it, I was right. You are completely inadequate and dangerous to society, but it was only in the foot. Consider yourself lucky that I took good aim with this thing. She put the firearm next to her on the swing, took her cell phone out of her pocket and dialed 911. My husband attacked me with a baseball bat, and I had to defend myself. Call an ambulance. No, he's writhing in agony on the ground, screaming at me. He's not in a position to hurt me. I see. I'll hang up as soon as the police arrive. Not unless he gets back on his feet and tries to attack me again. If he does, I won't hesitate to release the entire magazine into his torso. She ended the call and remarked, You should probably leave before the police arrive. No point in involving you in this. No, I'll support you. Run inside and gather all the evidence you receive from Sam. Then bring it out here. We'll tell the police that I was delivering the items to you and arrived just as he approached you with the bat. Then we'll tell them about waiting together for his and Vicky's frantic calls, what was said, and how you informed him he could collect his belongings at 6. I left to retrieve the pictures and videos for you and plan to return by 6 to be on hand in case you try anything foolish. I arrived just after him and witnessed the entire altercation. Do you think they'll buy it? As long as we stay consistent with our story, it should work. During our conversation, the foolish individual rolled on the ground, clutching his leg and swearing. Norma fetched some material from the house, and upon her return, we sat on the swing, enduring the complaints of her husband while awaiting the arrival of the police. As the sirens approached, 2 police cars arrived with 4 officers emerging, guns drawn and pointed in our direction. They fanned out, advancing towards the porch, while Norma and I raised our hands to show we were unarmed. 2 officers attended to the injured man who cried out, She shot me. The woman shot me. Once the police secured the area, an ambulance arrived to transport the wounded man away. I instructed the officers to handle the baseball bat carefully as it was evidence. Norma and I were separated and taken to the police station, each placed in separate rooms. A detective came in and I recounted my version of events. 3 hours later, I was released and driven back to Norma's, where I retrieved my car and headed to Tom's place. Norma stayed with him until approximately noon the following day. She phoned me upon arriving home to update me. It seemed that the police accepted our explanation, as she was only charged with discharging a firearm within city limits before being released without bail. Reflecting on our experience at the station, we reassured ourselves that everything would likely turn out fine. I'd invite you for dinner, but given the circumstances, I believe it's best for us to keep our distance for a while, she said. I concurred but assured her that I would stay in touch. Later at 4, Norma called to inform me that the incident had made the local newspaper and asked if I had seen it. Since I hadn't, I went to the 7-Eleven to purchase a copy. To my relief, my name wasn't mentioned, but Norma and her husband were featured. The article mentioned her husband being hospitalized, though not in critical condition, and Norma being charged but released without bail. That afternoon, I received 11 calls from Vicky on my cell phone, all of which I promptly deleted. However, I decided to answer the 12th call, albeit with a touch of impatience. What do you want now? Didn't you understand that all communication should go through my lawyer? I asked sharply. I need to talk to you, Bobby. I need you to listen to me. I want to explain what happened and why. I want you to know that I love you and don't want to lose you, Bobby. Vicky pleaded. That may be what you need, Vicky, but what I need is to end things with you for good. This is the last time I'm speaking to you, I retorted. I'll fight the divorce, Bobby. I'll hire the best lawyer and make this difficult for you. I've spoken to people who've been through divorces and I know what I can do, Vicky threatened. You haven't learned a thing, Vicky. You can't prevent a divorce. You can make it lengthy and expensive, but you can't stop it unless I agree. You can't force me to take you back or live with you. All you'll do is waste our money on lawyers and court fees. If you want to spend years paying your lawyer, go ahead. Eventually, no matter what, I'll be granted the divorce, I concluded firmly. I paused as if struck by a sudden idea, then suggested, perhaps your resistance to the divorce could benefit me. I might instruct my lawyer to halt the proceedings altogether. Truth is, I don't see the need for it, as I have no intention of remarrying. Being single isn't a pressing concern for me. Plus, it would save me money. No hefty legal fees, no court-ordered alimony, and no messy asset division. The more I think about it, the more appealing it sounds. So go ahead, Vicky. Contest it, and I'll retract. Yes, that suits me just fine. Who knows, someday you might meet someone and want to tie the knot, finding yourself on the other side of a divorce. Then you'd be the one facing legal fees and court costs. If I relent now, I won't have to spend a penny. Then again, perhaps I'll choose to contest it to prevent you and your new love from marrying. The choice is yours, Vicky. Sign the papers and it'll all be over in a few months. Resist and I'll stick to my plan. But regardless of your decision, one thing is certain. As far as you're concerned, I'm gone for good. Goodbye, Vicky. A series of events unfolded over the following month, comprising both positive and less favorable occurrences. Vicky refrained from signing and returning the divorce papers, yet she also refrained from hiring an attorney to contest the divorce proceedings. Sam believes she assumes that by not signing and returning the papers, the divorce process will cease, thus avoiding attorney fees. Her assumption is incorrect. Although it's not in our interest to correct her, we have proof of service, and her lack of response means the proceedings will continue. On a positive note, Norma's husband faced felony charges of menacing, enabling Norma to obtain a restraining order against him. However, the less favorable aspects included Jim obtaining legal representation to contest the divorce, potentially prolonging and increasing the costs of the process. Additionally, the district attorney, up for re-election, persisted with charges against Norma, possibly to avoid being portrayed as lenient on crime by opponents. During the divorce hearing, Vicky's absence, likely stemming from her belief that non-participation would halt proceedings, led the judge to grant the petitioner's request. Leaving the courtroom, I knew I would be a free man in 120 days. That evening, I dined with Norma, who once again extended her offer of accommodation. You don't need to worry about the appearance anymore now that your divorce has been finalized. That may be the case for me, but it's different for you. You can't risk giving Jim anything that could be used against you. I'm not concerned. Sam assures me that the divorce will be straightforward due to the adultery and the incident with the baseball bat. Perhaps the divorce will go smoothly, but part of it involves dividing assets, and my presence here might complicate matters for you. That's irrelevant. The most he can claim is half of the house and some of our savings. Besides, I'm about to inherit my trust in a year. I'll be fine, so I'm not worried about any of that. But I am. It's probably not the best time to say this, but I've developed feelings for you over the past few months, and I don't want to do anything that might make things harder for you. Why would you say that? Why shouldn't you express your feelings? Because I want to be with you, but I can't. Why not? Have you considered that your feelings might be mutual? That's not the issue. I need to keep my distance from you for your own sake. I just said I don't care about the legal aspects. I have a solid prenuptial agreement that dictates what my ex is entitled to. That's only part of it, Norma. We can't give the district attorney or your husband anything they could use against us in court. I might have to testify in both trials, and I need to minimize any potential damage. Maybe we can meet once a week for dinner and explain it as keeping each other updated on our divorces since our spouses caused the split. But even that might be risky. We need to maintain distance until the court cases are resolved. She stared at me for a moment before saying, "Why does life have to be so complicated?" I understood exactly what she meant. During the following 2 months, I took Norma out for dinner once a week. It was painful to refrain from going where I truly desired, but I compelled myself to maintain a distance. Meanwhile, I received 3 or 4 calls a week from Vicky, imploring me to speak with her and begging me to return home. I simply hung up on her without uttering a word. The trial of Norma turned out to be rather disappointing. The district attorney presented his case with Norma's husband as a key witness. Despite his initial denial that the bat was meant for Norma, he inadvertently revealed that it was meant for me instead. I could see the district attorney's disappointment when Jim made a gaffe indicating his inability to properly prepare a witness. Norma stuck to the agreed story, and then it was my turn to testify. Yes, I knowingly gave false testimony, but I didn't care. After all, this jerk ruined my marriage, and I felt I owed him some kind of revenge. The jury deliberated for less than 15 minutes before reaching an acquittal verdict. 3 weeks later, it was Jim's turn to stand trial. It took the jury only 20 minutes to reach a guilty verdict. He was sentenced to a year and a day, but he proved his idiocy even more by publicly threatening me in front of the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, and the audience. "I'll get you for this. Wait for the reward." I grinned at him, anticipating the day when he would demand retribution, knowing that his outburst would be documented, which would help him go back to prison. After the completion of the trials, I accepted Norma's invitation to move in with her. On my first night there, she came into my room and slid into bed next to me. "I've been dreaming about this for months," she whispered, putting her hand on my instrument. One day, her husband and I joked on the phone that Norma was far superior to Vicky in bed, and it turned out to be true. We had a wonderful night. In the morning, everything happened again. The next night, the number was reduced to 3. In the end, I had to insist on reducing our activity in order to save enough energy to work. We switched to a once-a-night mode 4 or 5 times a week, with 2 or maybe 3 sessions on weekends. I wish I could say that our story ended happily ever after, but that wouldn't be true. Norma and I had a passionate relationship that sometimes seemed overwhelming to us, but eventually we realized that our bond was based solely on physical intimacy and football. Although we genuinely liked each other, love was not part of the equation. However, our affection for each other and the intensity of our physical connection kept us going until the day she mentioned meeting someone else she wanted to explore further. I packed my things and left during the day. I wished her all the best and assured her that I would be there for a chance meeting if she ever needed it. "I'll remember that," she replied, but I never heard from her again. The final scene in the ongoing drama of my life unfolded. 2 days after the divorce from Vicky was finalized, she received the papers in the mail and promptly called me. "You despicable person. How could you betray me like this? I never agreed to any of this nonsense. No spousal support. You earn twice as much as I do. How is that fair? And this claim that I owe you $30,000 for your supposed share of the house. You have no claim to the house. It's mine. Solely mine." I couldn't help but chuckle at her outrage and responded, "Oh, but you did agree. You agreed by not seeking legal counsel and by not contesting the divorce. If you need to, you can take out a second mortgage on the house to settle my share. Look at it positively. It only cost you $30,000 to be rid of me. That's quite a bargain." but I didn't want to be rid of you." As I hung up, I was relieved she couldn't see my expression. The truth was I hadn't wanted to let her go either. However, the harsh reality was that I couldn't stay with someone who cheated. I held firm to the belief in the saying, "Once a cheater, always a cheater." In the months that followed, life settled into a semblance of normalcy. I found a modest apartment not far from work, kept myself busy, and began to rebuild. I never heard from Norma again after we parted ways, and I ignored every subsequent call from Vicky. Whatever semblance of closure she sought from me, I wasn't willing to provide. Perhaps there is no definitive ending to this kind of story. The scars remain, reminders of betrayal and the unraveling of a life I thought was secure. But in time, those scars fade, just as they do for anyone forced to confront the truth about the people they trusted most. For now, I take solace in knowing that I've moved on. And if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that I'll never again ignore the warning signs of deceit. Maybe, just maybe, my next chapter will be written with someone who values honesty as much as I do. Until then, I'll keep going, step by step, one day at a time.